So really the neurology of stress is as such. And let me remind you guys, we're about 28 minutes into this. We're going to be wrapping up shortly. But again, if at any time this is hitting home to you, right? If this is making sense, I want you to go ahead and like it, all right? Comment in the box below. And please, at the end of this video, if you haven't done so already, please share it with another friend, family member, or parent who themselves or has a child who is struggling with these types of health challenges, seizures and epilepsy. We're going to get them some answers. Make sure you go ahead and tag them in the video when you share it, all right? And let's get this information out to them. To get back to the neurology of stress, essentially the sympathetic nervous system engages. It automatically goes into a fight or flight sympathetic dominant state. This then, guys, also then directly influences the autonomic nervous system, as we discussed, organ and system function, right? So it can have a negative effect on immune system, digestion, and various other systems in the body. The adrenals, which are the stress hormones, they sit on top of the kidneys. These adrenal glands get activated, they get overloaded, and they start pumping out stress hormones into the system, into the blood, pumped to the brain. The brain recognizes these hormones and keeps pumping the system, all right? At this point, guys, you got the foot slammed all the way down on the gas. This thing's buried in the floorboard, all right? Your kids are just, they're maxed out at this point. In addition to that, you get the nociception, you get the chaos, you get the stress further getting wired into the nervous system. The amygdala, the stress and anxiety centers are truly, completely activated at this point, feeding the system, driving them further into a stress sympathetic state where they can't get out of. The hippocampus, the learning center, becomes affected. The frontal cortex, much of the cognitive behavior of the individual takes place here. Personality, expression, decision making becomes affected, starts to take place, and moderating of social behavior, things of that nature, can be a result as well, in a very negative way, as many of you may know. The fourth D here, I want to briefly discuss, essentially is what we refer to as dyskinesis, or abnormal energy output. Now, what's interesting, guys, is we have technology in the office, and many offices have this technology also, which is referred to as SEMG, or surface EMG. Now, this is a scan, essentially, of the amount of energy within the spine and the nervous system. Guys, this is an EEG right here. But instead of mapping electrical activity within the brain, we're measuring electrical activity within the nervous system. All right, so when we think about this, all right, and electrodes essentially are placed within the spinal column on the surface, all right, hence the S in SEMG. And we're taking a measurement of the amount of energy, the E, that is being passed through the muscle that surrounds the spine, the M, that is being passed up to the generator, or the G, in this case, the brain. So we're measuring, guys, the amount of total energy that is being passed within the nervous system, through the muscle, through the conduit, to the brain, to the generator. We can measure this. And the individuals that have these labels and diagnoses of epilepsy and seizures have total energy, guys, that are totally indicative of the exact symptoms that they are expressing 100% of the time. The nervous system essentially becomes both stuck on, right, gas pedal down, and disorganized. And when you have these scenarios taking place, this is the epilepsy, this is the seizures. You get into some other scenarios where this is the autism, this is the spectrum disorders as of such. We can measure all this. Now that's really cool. So the technology that we do have, the diagram on the right is the SEMG technology. We can measure all the energy. And the technology on the left is what we call a thermal scanner, where we can measure stress patterns within the nervous system and how those stress patterns within the nervous system are tying in to the autonomic portion of the body, particularly the organs, glands, and systems. So These two in particular are great tools, great things that we can use to gain insight into what's going on under the surface for you or your child. And they're great tools, and they're very accurate, and I would highly, highly recommend finding someone that utilizes at least both of these pieces of technology right here, the thermal scan and the surface ENG. Very, very powerful tools. Guys, I want to just take a couple minutes and, first of all, thank you for spending about 35 minutes here with me this afternoon. Again, take this information and do something with it. All right? The majority of you guys that are looking at this video, this is not your first rodeo, right? We are last resort when it comes to this stuff, right? We're not first line of defense. You've been everywhere else. You've had the test. You've been to the specialist. You've had the diagnoses. You've done the medication, all right? If you're still struggling, all right, even if you're asymptomatic, all right, there are oftentimes things that are still there that need to be cleared out. So information, the way I end this is information is awesome, but it's just information, all right? You need to take action, right? You need to get scanned. You need to have your kids scanned for subluxation, for these stress patterns, and you need to understand where it's all coming from. And you need to find a trained pediatric chiropractor that is able to sit down with you, understand what you've been through, take a case history, communicate it to you in a way that makes sense in the very same manner that I believe I have just communicated it to you in the last 30 minutes, and give you a breakdown of what it actually needs or what is actually needed to get results. All right? This isn't going to be one visit. This isn't going to be 2 visits. It's not going to be 4 visits. All right? Understand, please, guys, that your nervous system, your child's nervous system has been wired, has been sympathetic dominant for years. How long do you think it takes to rewire a nervous system? I'll tell you this, it doesn't take 3 visits. Find someone that knows what they're talking about, can communicate it to you effectively, and put together a course of action to get it taken care of. Don't just take this information, take action. All right? If this is you, take action. If this is your kid, take action. All right? If you have questions, if you want to get in touch with me, the name of our practice is Ahern Family Chiropractic. This is our address, 525 North Main, Suite 130, Milford, Michigan.